James McDonald, watch and clock repairs.
Say, Pop, can you fix this? It was okay yesterday. Must be the sea air.
I can fix it. Nice watch. It's English.
It was my grandpa's. He was English.
Oh, hustle it up, Pop. I gotta be back on board in an hour.
An hour, did you say?
Oh, come on, Pop.
Well, it'll cost you 4 and 6pence.
That's okay.
Well, you'd best sit down and wait.
My grandpa said the English made nice clocks.
Aye, going back to his time. John Harrison, the man who made modern navigation possible. Aye, the English made fine clocks and fine ships, and the two were linked together. For hundreds of years, the English sailors had been trying to fix their position at sea when out of sight of land. A ship's latitude, that is how far north or south she was, could be found by the pole star. But her position east or west, her longitude, was just a guess. The ship might be anywhere along this line. As far back as 1530, mathematicians knew that longitude could be found if the time on board the ship, found by a sundial, could be compared with the known time in a particular place on shore. But to do this, a clock was needed, and this clock, on a moving ship, mind you, must keep time for months on end without the loss or gain of more than 3 seconds a day.
3 seconds? That must have been quite a problem.
Aye, a problem that had to be solved. It was so important that an Act of Parliament was passed in 1713, setting up a board of longitude to study the problem and offering £20,000 to anyone who could solve it. John Harrison did it after 4 attempts. His first clock, in 1735, had a new kind of escapement and was not affected by a ship's movement. But it was large, and still not accurate enough to satisfy Harrison. Fussy people, these clockmakers, always have been. Well, after 2 further attempts, he produced, in 1764, the final clock. It won the £20,000 award. And that was the clock which made timekeeping on board ship possible. After that, navigators all over the world had to carry with them that little ticking thing in a box. So the problem of longitude was solved by an English invention. And an English naval town, Greenwich, was chosen as the point of the North Meridian. The observatory was already at Greenwich, built in the reign of Charles II to study the problem of longitude. They've a thing there called an astronomical regulator, the direct descendant of Harrison's timekeeper, and it controls the BBC's 6 pips and gives a standard to the whole world. The same sort of regulator is used in an English factory I know, where they make some of the world's finest marine timekeepers, or chronometers as they are now called. They go into ships of all nations to help navigators find their ways across the world. Aye, seamen have a lot to thank John Harrison for, and he was only one. Did you know that almost every important invention in clockmaking came from this country? There was the anchor and recoil escapement, invented in 1650 by Dr. Robert Hooke. The lever escapement, still used in modern watches, was invented by a man called Thomas Mudge of Bideford, 1754, that was. And there was the dead beat escapement, invented by George Graham about 1715. This escapement is still used today in all high-grade pendulum clocks. You know, there are still craftsmen in England who make all the parts themselves by hand and assemble them It's in the tradition. A clockmaker in Harrison's time was engineer, carpenter, and artist all in one, and there are still such men living. They make a clock all by themselves that goes out into the world worth £300. In other places I know of, the craftsmen work as a team, each specializing. Some assemble the movements. That's something your machines cannot do, though you can plan the parts to come quickly to hand. Then there are the men who specialize in making the cases. All hand work, mind ye, and fine work it is, too. What are called high-grade clocks are made that way, and we turn out quite a few. Pendulums, grandfathers, grandmothers, strikers, and chimers of all descriptions. Aye, your your grandfather was right. The English make fine clocks, and I say that as a Scotsman. Take a look at them. Those clocks will outlive many a man's life. Workmanship, that's what counts.
Sure, they're fine. And what about the cost?
Oh, aye, they're not cheap, but they last.
Yeah, that's okay for those who can afford it. But the average guy lives by average time. He doesn't want an expensive, handmade job. He needs a clock that's accurate enough to live by, but he doesn't care if it won't last forever, so long as he can afford a new one when it wears out.
Before the war, most of the watches in the shops here did come from your country, or from Switzerland, but when the war came, we were cut off from them. That not only meant we hadn't got watches, it meant that, with the war on, we hadn't got fuse mechanisms and such like things. So I suppose the government decided not to be caught like that again, and in 1945 they backed the building of new factories for a bigger clock and watch industry in places where people had been out of work before. In Wales, for instance, there's a huge factory. It's been fitted out with grand machines. They're automatic. Once they're set to make a particular part, like a tiny pinion or a gear wheel, they go on turning them out hour after hour. Aye, and they're as accurate as those made by the hand craftsmen. You see, the skill has gone into the making of the tools and the checking. As many as 90 accurately turned identical pinions can be made by this machine in the time it would take to make one by hand. Machines like these are also turning out parts for the mechanisms we were lacking, things like time recorders, electrical time switches, and mechanical time switches. Meanwhile, other machines are pressing out the cases, hands, and dials. They collect up all these parts and take them to the assembly room. Oh, it's a wonderful place, that. Dust-free atmosphere and everything as clean as a new pin. Girls assemble the watches there. Each girl is skilled in the fitting of one or two parts of the whole watch.
Ah, mass production. Now you're talking.
Aye, but don't forget, mass production is only a method. The old craftsman is still behind it all. But the emphasis has shifted from the watch to the design of the tools that make it. And individual inventiveness is still coming out. Take an operator straightening a balance wheel, for example. The part is so minute it's difficult to see. I know of a girl in another factory who helped to solve that problem. She works on the same operation but on alarm clocks. She pointed out to the foreman that if she could see the part more clearly, the work would be quicker and more accurate. Ah, said the foreman, you've got something there. I'll have a word with the designer. So he went along to the development department where they work out ideas for new and better tools. I see, said the designer. What about something like this? A projector which can throw a shadow onto an enclosed screen. That ought to do it. Well, it seemed all right on paper, so in a few days they'd made a mock-up out of scrap metal and old bits of cardboard and such like. And now they have a new tool in that factory. Instead of having to peer at the tiny part itself, the girl watches an enlarged shadow of it projected onto a screen. That sort of thing's going on all the time. These ideas and growing bits of knowledge are like Graham inventing the dead beat a couple of centuries ago, or Hooke creating the anchor and recoil. And mass production needs hand-skilled craftsmen too, you know. Not so much for the clocks, but to make the tools to make the clocks. Take a die stamp that cuts out clock hands. That's got to be as accurately designed and cut as any part in a handmade clock, and any error in that work is repeated in every hand the press stamps out. That's why the British government has sponsored training colleges. Here at the Horological Institute in London, the old craft is passed on to the men and women who are going to build the new. See what I mean? Men like Harrison and Hooke and Mudge, their work is still behind our clocks and watches. Different faces, mind you. Just bairns, those students, but they're going to become developers and designers in the new industry. And all these new tools and methods and designs are helping the girls on the production lines. More, that's the need today. And there's no doubt this new industry is producing more, and of every type. And as you know, son, the more they make, the less they cost. No, I don't think you need worry. What did you call him? Your average guy can get his inexpensive clock as lasting and as accurate as he could want. A wider choice for the individual. And it may be as good-looking as your handmade watch, even though it is made in a different way.
Finished?
Aye.
Gosh, thanks for the hustle, Pop. Thanks a lot.
And don't treat it rough.